I just bought this. It's the Chroma Console by Hologram. I saw the videos that Hologram was putting out on this thing, and I was like a moth to a flame, dude. Pointless conversations. I could be anywhere else in this whole world. Pointless conversations. Wish I were anywhere else at all. They just hit bombs, dude. They just sit in their lab and they just send it into the bleachers all day long. Just look at the Microcosm. It's on every desk, just like the OP1 Field. Okay, now I'm just showing off my gear. But I love this shit. This, for the last 10 years, or the original version of this, was the Swiss Army knife that you found on every studio desk. And now you can't see a video without the Microcosm being in it somewhere. The Microcosm is just an easy box. Whatever you put through it sounds beautiful. I played guitar all my life, but I was never a pedal junkie. I kind of just preferred the tone from the amp. I had a foot switch that got me a clean channel and gain channel, and that was good for me. Maybe I was just lazy or lacked imagination. And then I discovered synthesizers, and then my guitars went away. About 9 years ago, I discovered something called Eurorack Modular. And if you don't know what that is, turn this video off and go watch something else and forget you ever saw this. I did not expect the obsession that I was inheriting. I became a sonic explorer, obsessed with patching this thing up and growing it. I would create patches and fall asleep in my chair. In the span of those 8 years, I didn't really record much at all. I realized pretty quickly that I didn't know how to incorporate synthesizers into the music that I was writing or that I had written before. It was always kind of guitar-based music, and I didn't have a concept of how to put those two things together. What it really ended up being, though, was the best education I could have possibly asked for in terms of sound design, sound sculpting, tone, texture, balance, and mixing, and an all-around deeper understanding of the fundamentals of sound. I completely disappeared, and this guy pulled me out of it, which was the birth of this channel. It was my bridge back to songwriting and recording again. And it bridged the gap between synthesizers and guitar or more organic instruments. The reason why I'm talking about synthesizers is because after my experience, this was really the first time that I'd ever seen it in the form of a guitar pedal. There have been others, but this is granular synthesis. This isn't just emulating a square wave or a sawtooth wave with your guitar string. You may know this as a magic box that can't sound bad, but that's all hologram because, for example, the Morphogene by Make Noise uses granular synthesis. But in standard Buchla West Coast synthesis fashion, it can get pretty chaotic pretty fast, which is why I love that thing. It's great for sampling. For me, for what I do, I love to sample that thing. The Microcosm does granular synthesis, but this thing is like bumper bowling. It keeps everything in place because you can sync it via MIDI to any other gear, so you can clock it. And of course, because of the Element 115 that they're hiding in their labs. Chroma Console, it's not a synth per se, but just like modular, you can rearrange all of the effects. It's a multi-effects pedal, so you get a lot of different effects with it, and you can very easily put them in whatever order you want, which makes a huge difference. I want to stop for a second though and emphasize how big of a deal this is. Part of the reason why I didn't get into pedals was I was younger and I didn't have much of a budget, and it was a pain in the ass because every effect was a pedal. And every pedal has two cables coming out of it. One cable to go into it and another cable to come out of it to go to the next pedal or into the amplifier. And if you wanted to switch pedals around to test how the effects affect each other, it was a pain in the ass. And you might not even like what you end up with. And you might not remember how it was like patched together before, which is very typical for modular. I thought once I unplug something, I have no idea where that's going back to because it's got a million patch points. But on here, you have a little command station. It's just a little cheat sheet on commands, and you hit the effects setup mode, which is just these outside buttons, and then you can just punch in whatever order you want. I remember multi-effects pedals back in the day. I always felt like they were like off-brand effects, like generic brands put together in wholesale on this effects board that looked like shit, and the UI was really difficult to deal with. And to my ears, they never really sounded that good. They never fooled me, I guess. I don't know. I always expected more out of them. I actually noticed that it's really, really hard to make this thing sound bad. Like I said, it's like bumper bowling. Even when you crank the feedback on the delay all the way up, it still doesn't like blow your ears out. But if there was ever any doubt that digital is caught up with analog, this thing is an example of analog warmth without the analog, to my ears at least. This is cream in a box. If I could, I would put it into my coffee in the morning. Glug, 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 glug. Oh, sweet, sweet cream. Before synthesizers, I always thought of these things as guitar pedals. Now, I don't know what to put through them next. Maybe a microphone? Which brings me to today's sponsor, me, baby. If you're an OP1 user, either OG or OP1 Field, I have some stuff on my website, novaktheenjoyer.com, including the microphone pop filter for the built-in mic on the OP1, on both versions. When I made this thing, it kind of changed the recording game for me using the OP1. It allowed me to be able to sing into it without an issue of blowing out the signal and going out and doing field work, getting field sound. I mean, how else are you going to record wind chimes? And sampling wind chimes is awesome. You go out, you sample some wind chimes, and then you down tune that shit to like negative 24 and drop a fat beat. And also subscribe, join me. The crown jewel for me when it comes to the Chroma Console is the compression. You have this setting called squash, and it just bakes everything perfectly. Everything is baked to perfection.
In the stars before the sea, they make me change my words and makes it hard to breathe. My voice is all I got to put my point across. With every word I say, I know there is a cost.
There's so much ear candy coming from this pedal, but I feel like the compressor's the thing that drew me into the tone. But just in case you haven't seen the 2-hour special that Mark Johnston did on this thing, I'll give you a brief overview. I mean, the guy made a 2-hour YouTube video on this thing. It would be pretty stupid for me to go into detail about how to use it. He truly serves the people, and he's actually great at making videos, so subscribe to that channel. You have 4 columns. You have the gain column or the distortion column, which is the first one. The second one, you have modulation-based effects. The third one, you have time-based effects. And the fourth one is your compression, tape effects, and filter. In the bottom right corner, you have a short menu that basically gives you secondary functions where you can adjust the volumes of each effect or of each column, and you can adjust the modulators of those effects and how much you want those to affect the effects. Do you want this thing to have an effect? I bought it to have all of the thousands of dollars of vintage gear that you have to maintain and fill a room with and plug in and out and drag all over the place, and have it all in one tiny little box that I can have on my desktop. It's really a testament to the advancement of technology, coupled with, of course, the impeccable taste of the engineers and designers at Hologram Electronics, which is why I'll probably get everything that they release, even if I don't hear it first. I'll probably just take it's a take my money kind of company. I wanted to give a quick process note. When I went deep into modular, I noticed that my favorite patches always happened within the first 2 or 3 months of owning a new module. After that, I found that my patch cables started to find comfortable spots in the patch bay. I started to form habits the more that I got to learn these modules, and I started to make the same connections over and over and over again. Things would just start sounding the same, and my patchwork, the sounds that I was getting out of it, the sequences, the patches would just start to get bland and familiar. Since then, I've always tried to maintain a sort of bird's eye view on every piece of gear that I buy. I'm not someone that reads the manual front to back and kind of learns the thing before I even touch it. I like to push buttons and see what happens. My wife hates that. When I approach something like the Microcosm or the Chroma Console, I try to keep a little distance. Hologram, I think, has 2 other pedals that they came out with before the Microcosm. I haven't tried those. But now that I think about it, I kind of want to get the set and do like a Voltron video or something. Dude, I heard it here first, folks. And I want to do it as a hologram, dude, like Tupac. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to need an After Effects specialist and a bigger budget. Thanks for watching. Later, dudes.